Oh. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at our Maze Lunch and Learn. So I might as well get started right away. And so feel free as well. There is coffee, tea, drinks just on over here.
I think something might have become unplugged or something.
Oh, there might have been.
Well, that one.
There we go.
Oh,
so
okay.
there it is. You did good.
Oh,
excellent.
Perfect.
Okay.
Look at me go.
So in the spirit of respect and reconciliation, we acknowledge that we are gathered here on Treaty 4 territory, the ancestral land of the Cree, Anishinaabe, Dakota, Nakota, and Lakota nations, and the homeland of the Métis people. My name is Crystal Lundgren, and I'm the Education Coordinator for the City of Swift Current. A few housekeeping items before we begin, if you don't mind, to just please silence your cell phones. And our washrooms are just located down the hallway to the right. And when you enter, the lights turn on automatically. Before we begin, I would like to thank our sponsors, the City of Swift Current, Sask Lotteries, Sask Culture, for their continued support of the museum. So today we are very excited to welcome Michelle McCrie. Michelle is a certified death doula and the owner of Making Memories, Death Doula and Legacy Planning here in Swift Current. Having survived the devastating loss of her daughter Alyssa, Michelle founded Making Memories in her daughter's memory. She is committed to providing compassionate care and to assist families in caring for their loved ones at end of life, helping with organization and preparation with a focus on compassion.
So thank you to the Swift Current Museum for inviting Making Memories to come and speak with you today. Thank you all so much for coming. It can sometimes be... Oh, really? Get closer to the mic. How's that? Perfect. That's okay? All right. Sorry. Usually I'm too loud, so... Okay. It can sometimes be difficult to have people come out and participate in a discussion about end of life, so it's really great to see you all here. As Crystal said, my name is Michelle McCrie. I am the owner of a small business in Swift Current called Making Memories. Talking about end of life does not have to be sad, depressing, dark, or morbid. We're all on our way there eventually. So I'm really glad that we can have an open and honest conversation about it. I'm going to start today just by giving you a little bit of my background, my personal experiences, and what brought me to establishing Making Memories. In 2009, my daughter Alyssa passed away at the age of 20. I was a 39-year-old mom, and I had no idea how to deal with such a tragic loss, let alone how to plan a funeral or administer an estate. Alyssa died without a will, which made every step extremely difficult. So I lived in a fog of complicated grief for years. And after years of counseling and just going through the motions, I found that I was stuck in my grief. So I began researching and reading everything that I could get my hands on to learn about death and dying. In my younger years, I worked as a care aide at the Pioneers Lodge, as well as in palliative care at the Palliser Hospital. And I later worked in a law firm environment for 14 years, which helped me gain basic knowledge of estate planning and administration. So everything that I have done in my life and everything that I have personally experienced has led me to becoming a certified death doula and opening the doors to Making Memories. Becoming a death doula opened my heart and my mind as to how we can prepare for a good death. So let's move on to living well. What does living well mean to you? Everyone's definition of living well is going to be different. It could mean being successful at your job and striving for promotions. For some, it may mean traveling the world. It may mean spending quality time with family, or it may be as simple as nurturing a garden or baking cookies with grandchildren. For some, it may mean getting more exercise, eating well, and living a healthy lifestyle. What brings you joy in life is what living well is going to mean to you personally. Whatever your definition of living well may be, for many, having peace of mind is always high on the priority list. When you have peace of mind, everything else that falls into your living well category seems to fall into place. So what is it that brings you peace of mind? Is it being financially stable, being in good health, having great relationships with friends and family, knowing that you're going to be taken care of when the time comes, or leaving a lasting legacy for children and grandchildren? Again, everyone is different, and this will be specific to each individual. So I want to talk for just a moment about that word legacy. Many people at end of life talk about their legacy. What is my legacy? What will people remember about me? More and more, we hear this word pop up in advertising, which further prompts us to contemplate what our legacy will be. The first dictionary definition of the word legacy is an amount of money or property left to someone in their will. If we're in a financial position to leave money to our kids or to a charity, that's awesome. That is great. There are some, however, who cannot afford to leave money or valuables, so they may feel that they're unable to leave a lasting legacy. Sometimes they'll even feel guilt or that they won't be fondly remembered because they don't have a bunch of money to leave their beneficiaries. So the definition of the word legacy that I prefer is the long-lasting impact of particular events or actions that took place in the past or in a person's life. Your legacy could be, she always had a joke to tell. He always volunteered to help others. Grandma left me the recipe that everyone asked for, but that she always kept secret. So now it's my turn to make Grandma's dish for family gatherings. That is a great legacy. My daughter's legacy is making memories. She is the inspiration that led us here to this moment. We want to help people navigate preparation for end of life, the actual dying process, and care and support for those who are left behind. So now comes the fun part of our talk this afternoon, leaving well. What does that mean to you? Does it mean getting excellent medical care so we can die free of pain and suffering? Does living well mean that we are so well liked in our lifetime that crowds of people will show up to pay their respects? Again, everyone is going to have a different idea as to what leaving well will mean to them. So let's get the creative juices flowing and go back to the very beginning for a moment. What do we do when a new life is expected? We celebrate. We might plan a baby shower or a gender reveal. When preparing for a new life, we'll paint the nursery and set up a new crib. And we anticipate the birth with excitement and celebrate with joy. And of course, we take pictures to commemorate everything. First smile, cute outfit, little fingers curled around a thumb, blowing bubbles. So why do we put so much time, energy, and effort into preparing for a new life, but we don't put the same time, energy, and effort into preparing for end of life? So those are both beautiful and precious moments. Both can be difficult, both can be messy, both can be very emotional, but birth and death are equally important moments. So where do we start? We are never too young and never too old to have a healthcare directive and a last will and testament. The healthcare directive is sometimes called a living will, and it's only in effect while we're alive. This is a document where you name a proxy, someone who will speak for you regarding your healthcare decisions and directions when you're not able to speak for yourself. You can be as detailed as you want in a healthcare directive, but the really important parts address whether or not you want to be an organ donor or kept alive on life support, things such as that. A last will and testament, of course, names your executor, guardians of minor children, who your beneficiaries are, and how you wish for your estate to be distributed. To me, the most important reason to have a will is it's a gift to your family and those you leave behind. Alyssa was 20 years old. She did not own a house, and she didn't even own a car at that time. But she also didn't have a will. So administering her estate without a will, things as simple as closing a bank account, paying her cell phone bill, it was like reliving the day that she died over and over, because everyone has questions like, does she have a will? No. Well, who are you? Are you her next of kin? You need to prove that to us in order to take these steps. And then there was the question, how did she die? And that was always a tough one, one that I wasn't always comfortable answering. I am now. But when you are days or weeks into the grieving process of a loved one, these questions can kick you in the teeth. So if you are 18 and you live with your parents and your most valuable possession is a PlayStation, you need a will. If you are 92 and you live in a care facility, you need a will. If you're anywhere in between, you need a will. Super important. It truly is a gift to your family, so they can focus on grieving or funeral planning or choosing the perfect photo for an obituary instead of all the legal stuff that a will take care of. So these simple documents also contribute to the peace of mind category. So let's move on to the next step of what we want for ourselves at end of life. Where do you want to be? Many of us want to be in the hospital at end of life. The hospital is where we have access to round-the-clock nursing staff and pain medication. The hospital has fancy beds with remote controls and machines that go ping. That's for the Monty Python fans in the room? No? None? You're the only one who gets it, Carla. You might even get super cool nursing staff who will do shots with you and your family. So being in a hospital at end of life may also be one of the things that brings you peace of mind. If that's where you want to be, that's where you should be. So let's just take a look at other options. Did you know that we can choose to be at home at end of life? We have access to end-of-life doulas for daily care and comfort, the Swift Current Health Region home care for things like to help with medications, dressing changes, and other medical needs. So with that in mind, we earlier touched on painting the nursery, setting up the crib for that new baby coming home. So if we choose to be at home at end of life, let's prepare our space. So let's have some fun and consider what we would do, what we would like our end-of-life bedroom to look like. I like the boho style with bright colors and lots of pillows. It doesn't need to look medical. It can be fun and comfortable. Do you prefer a dimly lit room with flower petals and candles? Or perhaps soft colors, romantic and dreamy atmosphere? If my end-of-life caregivers, both of whom are standing right there, are really ambitious, I would love my deathbed to look like this, weather permitting. So let's talk now about who we want to spend our time with. I would like my husband with me, and I would like to be with him. And it all comes down to your personal comfort. Perhaps you would like to be surrounded by your children or grandchildren. Some people prefer to be alone with their thoughts. And I can't say it enough, we'll all want something different. So, yes, please, when we're at home, being surrounded by our pets is 100% possible. If this is your end-of-life dream, let's make it happen. This is my sweet baby Chester. We've had the talk, and he has promised that he's going to be with me when my time comes. He's my happy. So moving on to sounds. What do you want to hear at end of life? Would you like to hear the sound of crashing waves on a beach, birds singing in the trees, or perhaps soothing spa sounds or relaxation meditations? Maybe country music or Elvis Presley, 80s hair bands or bagpipes, ABBA, The Carpenters, Willie Nelson, Backstreet Boys, Anne Murray, Linkin Park. It's something to think about. I don't want somebody to put opera on for me because they think I'll find it relaxing. I want my music. So audiobooks are also an option for those of us who find escape or pleasure in a good fiction novel or podcasts about anything you're interested in. My guilty pleasure would be true crime and forensic investigation. So that's what you can play for me. Some research has determined that our sense of hearing is our last sense to go before we die. So keep that in mind when choosing your sounds. So on my deathbed, I may not appear to be responsive, but talk to me anyway. Or play my favorite music because I may just be able to hear what you're saying. What do you want to smell? Fresh baked bread, apple pie, bacon frying, coffee perking, flowers or fresh cut grass. Our sense of smell is closely linked to memory and can trigger spontaneous recall of old and sometimes forgotten memories. When you're thinking about what scents you might like at end of life, keep in mind that your brain can take you back in time. So just to give you an example, my dad worked with cattle throughout his career. The smell of manure meant that Daddy was home. So to this day, I love the smell of cow manure. To this day, manure, to me, smells like a day of hard work and coming home to his kids. It makes me think of him, which makes me happy, and it doesn't have to make sense to anyone else. Touch. What do you want to feel that might help us be relaxed and comfortable at our end of life? Yes, please rub my feet all day, every day. Now, with that said, if you have ticklish feet, you may not want this. We have to relay this information to our families and to our caregivers because what we don't want is equally as important as what we do. Who doesn't love getting their hair washed or getting a facial or a temple rub? Or a mani-pedi? If it brings us joy, we should do it. If I'm in bed at my end of life, I still want to look and feel good. So self-care is not selfish. This is a picture of my daughter Alyssa pampering her great-grandmother by painting her nails a pretty pink. Grandma loved getting her nails done. It brought her joy. This small act of love meant so much to Liz and as much as to my grandmother. So it's my hope that a conversation such as this can open the door to talking about what we want at our end of life and how we might plan for it. So let's talk for just a moment about another important life event, getting engaged. Planning a wedding, ordering invitations, saving the date, saying yes to the dress, going for fittings, cake tasting, Lemon curd with cream cheese frosting or red velvet with classic vanilla? Do we hire a caterer? I need to schedule a hairstylist and a makeup artist. Do we have an outside wedding or do we get married in a church? What song will I walk down the aisle to? Should I hire a quartet or should we have a soloist? Who should we get for a photographer to take 1 million pictures of our day? Who should I ask to be my bridesmaids? What music should our DJ play at our wedding dance celebration? So here is a question for you. How long does it take, on average, to plan a wedding?
1 year.
Exactly. That was the photographer who knew that. It takes a year to 15 months. So over a year, on average, it takes people to plan a 1-day celebration because this is a special day. So here's another question for you. How long, on average, do we spend planning a funeral or a memorial? 3 or 4 days. 2 equally important events. One will take a year, another we leave ourselves 3 or 4 days. So this is all the time that we usually have to make decisions like, what kind of urn would I choose if our loved one wants to be cremated? Perhaps this doesn't seem like a crucial decision to make, but when death is unexpected or even when it's not unexpected, I can say from experience that that's a hard decision to make on the spot, and we wish we had more time. Choosing a casket if our loved one wants to be interred. That's a big decision too. Flowers, pallbearers, graveside piper, food for after the service, obituary, funeral cards, guest book, music, flowers, and anything else that goes along with planning a funeral for someone that we love. If I hear anything from those who have already planned a service, it's that they wish they had more time to contemplate these decisions instead of rushing through them. So 1 year to plan a wedding, 4 days to plan a funeral, equally important life events. So how can we prepare for end of life in advance? More and more we see people recording a video message to be played for friends and family at their service. This is a personal touch that can be so meaningful. Grandparents can leave personal messages to their grandchildren with special personal memories. A video can be a keepsake for those that we love, particularly at a point in the grief process when we feel like we need to see their image and hear their voice. Especially when those shared memories are of happy times and the message is of a smiling grandma or grandpa. This can also help the grief process for younger individuals, for our kids and grandchildren. Another way we can pre-plan is by having a living funeral, which is starting to really become a thing. Creating memories with our family and friends before we die, telling stories, giving and receiving hugs, eating good food, taking family photos, listening to music, and celebrating life. I personally would love to be there to hear the eulogy that my husband will write for me. So I would then have the opportunity to tweak it before my actual funeral. So this is my granny. My grandma passed away 4 months after my daughter. She may not have remembered me every time I would visit, but she remembered everything from 60 years ago in great detail. So a living funeral could also give us opportunities to look at those old photos, reminisce, learn about our family history. When we're younger, we don't think to ask those questions, and to share laughter. So this is my dad, Pete Young. who passed away in December of 2024. The first photo was taken at a Toronto Blue Jays game, and this was the trip of a lifetime for my dad, and I feel pretty lucky to have been able to share that with him. This is always going to be a great memory for me. I'm not sure that I ever told my dad how much that trip with him meant to me. I know better now. So that's a good lesson for me, to share those kinds of feelings with the people that I love. The second photo was taken the day before my dad passed away after quintuple bypass heart surgery, which he drove to himself. My aunt, who is a retired nurse, volunteers with St. John's Ambulance and arranged for the therapy dog to come in and visit with him. I'm so glad she was able to make that happen. Dad was worried about the surgery, and this furry little boy took it off his mind for just a short little while. So I want to thank you all for coming today and talking about living well and leaving well. It's not always a conversation that is easily shared. So everyone is going to have a different idea as to how they want their life and death to look and how they want to be remembered. Some will want to die in the hospital. Some will want to die at home. Some will like the idea of having a living funeral. Some will pre-plan their own funeral. And some will choose not to have a funeral at all. And all of those are okay, if that's what we want. So the goal that I hope to accomplish is to normalize the conversation about death and dying, so we can all try to experience calm and peaceful end of life. After we die, it is not over for those we leave behind. That's when the grief process starts. And that is a conversation for maybe a future lunch and learn. So thank you for coming today. I hope that this can start conversations about what we want for ourselves, conversations about how we can help others make these decisions, and hopefully experience living well and leaving well. I've been asked on different occasions, what about respect? I don't want to plan something that's going to come across as being disrespectful. I've been to both kinds of funerals where it's respectful, and that's what you want. You've chosen your hymns. You know, there's an order to it. Alyssa's funeral, because she was so young, a lot of the remarks that I heard was, I have never walked into a church and heard Metallica playing, or Linkin Park, or whatever was on her playlist. Maybe some people in the room felt it was disrespectful. There were a lot of people at her service who wore Kurt Cobain, Nirvana t-shirts. And it was like, well, why didn't they dress up for her funeral? Because Alyssa loved Kurt Cobain and Nirvana, and that would have brought her a lot of joy. We tried to plan that day around what Liz would want. Having the experience of making all these decisions and questioning myself all within the space of a couple of days, all of that led me here. You know, I want to have fun planning my death. If that sounds crazy, that's okay. That's me. I want to have fun. I want my room to look like that. I want candles. I want my dog and, you know, the people that I love. That being said, if my sister decides that she's not comfortable being in the room with me at end of life, that's okay. You know, I'll be in the room with her because I'm comfortable. Like, we're all so different. Does anybody have any questions? This is why I follow a script, because I could keep you here till 3 o'clock. Hi, Carol.
How can a person get an advanced care plan?
I can help you with that. So a health directive or an advanced care plan, they can do that for you in the hospital. Now, if Corla was admitted to the hospital today and she's conscious and she's making good decisions, they can present you with a document that says, okay, let's, you know, do you want to donate your organs? Do you want, if something happens, do you want to be kept alive on life support? You can make it as detailed as you want. And I'm just going to use my dad as an example, he was claustrophobic. His fear that it was that my aunt, who was an RN, I don't know if there's any nurses in the room, but you tuck people in really, really tight, and that terrified him. He was so afraid, and he's like, if I can't speak for myself, don't let my sister tuck me in, like I will, you know. So it seems like such a small detail, but that can go in your care plan. So the care plan is something that's going to be followed by your doctors. I touched on the subject with a couple of people about the green sleeve. If you're alone at end of life, or if you live alone, even if you're not at end of life, if EMS comes into your house, the first place they're going to look is the top of your fridge. They're going to go up there. That's where, oh my gosh, Carol's allergic to vodka. Don't give her vodka. But it's going to say that's where you can keep your care plan. The issue about waiting until you're in the hospital is if I'm unconscious, I can't sign that document, you know. So
How does your doctor get that healthcare directive?
you can leave.
To them?
Yeah. So we do prepare them at the office. Sometimes they're as short as 1 page, and they can be as long as, 6 pages. Some people who we have done care plans for will actually deliver them to their doctor's office. Right. So that it's in their file. In the world of technology, you can access anything on your phone or a computer or whatever. So you can give that to your doctor to hold for you, but having a copy at home, having a copy for your kids, friends, neighbors, whoever is caring for you, everybody should have a copy. I sound like Oprah. Everybody gets a copy of a healthcare directive. So there will only be one will, one last will and testament, because that is a really important legal document. I didn't touch on powers of attorney because I don't do powers of attorney. I think everybody should have a power of attorney. Again, a super important document that every lawyer is going to encourage you to have. So the healthcare directive, living will, those documents are in force and effect only while you're alive. When you take your last breath, those documents no longer apply. Nobody's going to have, your power of attorney is not going to be able to get into your bank account or anything like that. Then it falls to your executor. So, like I said, even if it's a simple will, I leave Calvin everything, he leaves everything to me. If that's all we have, that's good. That's okay. If it's complicated, if you have a house in Belize or, millions of dollars of farmland, well, then you can probably afford a lawyer. Go to your lawyer and get a good last will and testament.
So what's the minimum if you have it on a piece of paper in your own handwriting and you sign it and someone else signs it, or what?
For your will?
Yes.
If you wrote your will on a piece of toilet paper and you signed and dated it in front of 2 independent third-party witnesses, so somebody who is neither named as an executor or a beneficiary, it could be, then it's called a holograph will. And if it's properly signed and dated, the court will look at it and go, tick in the box. Or they'll investigate it further. Is that Corliss handwriting, or, you know what I mean? So yeah, it really comes down to proper signing. So if you have an independent third-party witness, neither a beneficiary or an executor in no part of your estate, as long as it's signed properly.
And what are the things that you put in it, your power of attorney?
So your will first will be your executor. So it never hurts to have an alternate executor. And I could talk all day about that too, because if, Calvin's got 2 brothers, nobody lives in the same city. If his parents name all 3 of them to act jointly, Calvin needs to sign off on it, Grant needs to sign off, then we have to send it to Alberta, then we have to send it here. So, pardon me?
I just did that, and most of it can be done online these days.
That's the thing. There's also really good websites, one called Willful. And you fill in all of your information, and it pukes out a will. And then you can keep it online. There are so many options, and this is where, like I said, I'm so passionate about everybody having a will. And there's so many ways to do it. Go to your lawyer, especially if you have a complicated estate. We can do simple wills, and we have. There are a lot of people living in care facilities who do not have a will. You know, it's okay. It'll all go to the kids. But like I said, there's so many. You walk into the bank and say, hey, I want to close my mom's account. Who are you? Prove to me who you are. I need to see a copy of this, and then you end up going to a lawyer anyways. I think that the magic number to have your estate probated is about, I think it's about $30,000 if I recall. So don't quote me on that because I am not a lawyer. But if you have an estate assets worth more than that, then the chances of it having to go to court so that a judge can put the tick in the box is greater. So estate planning, I work with a really great young lawyer named Alex Laird at Stringham Law, and he's given me his personal cell phone so that if I have questions about, any of the legalities, I'm able to call him and try and get an answer. So at Making Memories, we definitely know our limits, and we stick to very simple estate planning. But that's the thing, it's a conversation, and if we don't have the conversation, then it's dust in the wind. It doesn't, so.
If there's some reason that you can't come to us, we can come to you.
Yes,
We are more
good point. Our office has 10 stairs. So we have had 2 clients so far who are in wheelchairs, and we go to their house. So that's really important. I have a mother who doesn't want to go out and get a haircut. She doesn't want to go out and shopping online is great. So somebody that can come to your house and make your life easier is, so, sorry.
So you are a death doula,
Yes.
right? Have you had instances where you've had clients come in and they want to question you about me?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. I was just talking to Crystal about that earlier. I think it might be the word assistance. So Making Memories and being a death doula there's no relation, there's no communication between end-of-life assistance and MAID, medical assistance in dying. So personally, it's actually a conflict of interest. Because we help people at end of life, it's not really our place to take steps to make that happen first, We have had, so at our office we also have grief cafes. So that's a bereavement support group. There's no counseling, but it's bereavement support. But there was enough interest in MAID that we actually had an evening sort of focused on that, where people could share their own experiences with MAID, good or bad. There's a lot of controversy surrounding that subject. And so we are not affiliated with MAID, but on a personal level, I want that choice for myself. So no, people have not so far. Only in, settings such as this have I been asked how we're related to MAID or medical assistance in dying. So no, we're not. I'm going to reserve that right for myself. Hi.
Hey, so if I write a will on a piece of toilet paper and get witnesses, like what do I do to it? Do I just pin it to the wall and hope someone finds it when I die? Or?
Yeah. That's a good question. So we talked about that green sleeve on top of the fridge. Anybody, I would be willing to bet that just about anybody in the room, if I walked into your house today, the first thing I'd do is go on top of that fridge to see if that green sleeve is there. I wish it would become more of a thing. Usually, well, the piece of toilet paper is not... what people they'll look if you have a safe in your house or a lockbox. Some people, their junk drawer in the kitchen, it might be in an envelope. The wise thing, I think, is just to make sure that whoever your executor and or beneficiaries are, that it's like, hey, by the way, I've got my will in my sock drawer. So if something happens to me, you know where it is. we should always sort of make our beneficiaries, well, not necessarily our beneficiaries, but our executors aware that they're going to be doing this. So if I said, hey, Carla, I want you to administer my estate, she reserves the right to say, no, I don't want to do that. Or to say, oh, of course, where do you keep your will? Where's all the important documents? The first thing that a funeral home asks you for when you pass away is 4 pieces of documentation: your driver's license, birth certificate, social insurance number, and death, yeah, well, they need that actually to order the death certificate. What did I say? Birth certificate, social insurance number, driver's license, and your health card, right? So, and that's actually a really good point too. The funeral home will provide you with a funeral director's statement of death. And oftentimes when you're starting to administer the estate, and again, if I'm talking like a lawyer, just full disclosure, I'm not a lawyer. I did work for them for 100 years, so I learned quite a bit. But then they actually order the death certificate with those documents from what used to be Vital Statistics, I think is called eHealth now. So that is the document that you will need to, whether it be deal with the bank accounts or investments or anything like that, yeah.
You can do that yourself.
Certainly. I personally, I don't know, well, that's the thing, and sorry for stumbling over my words. I feel like I know the process well enough, and if I'm not in it, I think I'd feel very capable. I was not prepared for the fog, like the grief fog, and this is where we talked about making all those decisions, funeral planning, that sort of thing. I didn't know what I was doing. And even if I had been doing this before, I still don't know if I would have known what I was doing. Do you want Alyssa to be buried, or do you want her cremated? And I fumbled around like I didn't speak English. So a lot of those things when you're grieving, that's where I turn it over to, I'm happy to turn it over to whether it be a lawyer or a realtor or, or if you have somebody who's maybe not really emotionally invested to help you, that's awesome too. Have you administered an estate before? Yes, you have, yeah.
For a 20-year-old and a 98-year-old.
Oh my gosh.
Certainly easier with the 98-year-old.
Right, yeah. What did you find to be the most difficult? Did you plan services for them as well? Yeah.
Probably the most lingering thing is the smell of the flowers of the 20-year-old. So many people sent flowers that our whole house was just overwhelming.
I'm not sure if you can hear back there, but one of the things that was really overwhelming was the smell of the flowers, because everybody sends flowers. I had a friend, her name is Kristen, and when my daughter passed away, as we were receiving flowers and meat trays and all of that, she showed up with toilet paper and paper towel and Kleenex. I would have run out of all of that in a day because I had so many people at the house. And I never thought of that, So, but people who have been through it, been in it, they twig on those kinds of things. I would now. If something happened, and I ended up at Corliss' house, I'd be there with a 48 pack of toilet paper because that's what you need.
And baking really of meals is certainly helpful.
Oh, for sure. And I've noticed that they actually have that option on funeral home sites, like sending meals to families. One thing I can't really relate to is when you have young kids at home, and I'm not sure that I would be able to, remember to feed them or get them off to school or what. That was my own personal experience. So for those who are dealing with their grief and then, wow, we've just really sort of turned this around to, this is a lot of what we do at Making Memories is the bereavement support. We talk a lot about grief and how people maneuver their way through it. So I hope that we've sort of planted a seed that where do you want to be? You know, like I said, my dad wanted to be in his own bed with his dog. Dogs, plural. He'd want my mother in the kitchen baking something. It doesn't matter. Like he loved all of her cooking. I want somebody to rub my feet, absolutely. Or if they, that's the nod of agreement. I'm pretty sure they're recording this, so. Oh, sorry.
Question, you refer to the green sleeve, are you literally saying that people are expecting something in green?
Well, I call it the green sleeve. Like at our grief cafes, at our bereavement groups, we've had different people come and speak. I've had three gentlemen in one evening come who had actually died in the hospital or died on the operating table and then came back. And everybody in that room wanted to know, where'd you go? What was that like? So that was really interesting. But then I also had a first responder come. And so we talked a lot about, the process. Like questions were asked like, what if I'm out of the country? What if I die out of the country? What if, I'm alone in the house? But that was one of the things that he touched on was if you have a first responder show up to your house, the first place they're going to look is on the top of the fridge. I think Crystal said she'd have to dust the top of her fridge now because mine's a mess. So if you have anything that you feel would be beneficial to making decisions for healthcare and things like that. So I call it a green sleeve because that's what they call it in Alberta. So people who are ill but can be at home can have that on top of their fridge. Their family always knows where it is, but the big thing is and if you are taken away by ambulance, that green sleeve comes with you. It goes everywhere with you. So it's not such a thing in Saskatchewan thus far, I don't think, but I think we should make it a thing.
What does green sleeve mean?
Well, it's just the color of the folder that they use in Alberta.
I've got mine in a plastic.
It's not green. Yeah, for sure. Like just in a plastic sleeve. If this was on top of my fridge, they'd look in it, for sure. Yeah.
Well, mine's on the front of the fridge. Advanced care plan.
Oh, even better. Yeah. We have a doula client, I guess, and he's got a magnet on the side of his fridge with ice in case of emergency. And then there's 3 or 4 numbers. This is who you call if he has to be taken to the hospital. Or I wonder if maybe I'm being cued or something.
No.
Like, no, there's no music to play me off. Or
That is not normal,
Yeah.
so I apologize.
Oh, no, that's no problem. No.
Can I turn it off?
Oh, sure.
I envisioned a doula sitting by somebody's bed.
Yes. That,
Some of your role.
yeah. So that is a huge part of the doula duties is sitting vigil. And it sounds so easy, sitting vigil with somebody as they're at end of life. But knowing the process of end of life, what you're going to hear, what it might look like, and
Teaching that to the family.
exactly. And just because I don't think anybody's going to be terribly uncomfortable, just as an example, they call it the death rattle or agonal breathing. And often families, oh no, oh my gosh, she's choking. You have to do something. She's choking, and she's not. So if you have somebody in the room with you who can encourage you or, just sort of direct you, look at her body language. Is she calm? Is she, does she seem, other than that noise that you hear? So I think more people have heard of a birth doula than a death doula. Birth doula being, oh, congratulations, you're expecting a baby. Let's guide you through the pregnancy. This is what happens. This is what you might feel. You might get hemorrhoids or, whatever. Then the actual birth process, which is scary in itself. And then follow-up, like, oh, do you want a nurse or do you want a bottle feed? I see you, Brad. So it takes you through the whole, how do you properly burp a baby and that sort of thing. So first step with death doula is let's prepare. Maybe you already have a will. Maybe you've already been to a lawyer. Maybe so let's get everything in order. Like we talked about the 4 pieces of ID. Keep that, keep them in a place where your family can find them, that sort of thing. So guiding you through the pre-process, I guess, and then the difference between being at end of life, being elderly, as your body naturally, like your body knows how to die. Being with somebody who's terminally ill is a different ballgame. If somebody has cancer. It was shared with me, this one lady was actually told, the nursing staff advised that at end of life, there's going to be changes in breathing, there's going to be changes in temperature, there's going to be changes but it didn't apply to her husband who had cancer, who was in his early 50s. And she goes, I felt like I was cheated because she's waiting for all these things that the textbook says, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. So it's so different. I would love it if we could all have a calm and peaceful death. And not all of us are going to. But I think talking about it is definitely going to make it more likely to happen, Did I answer your question, or did I go off on another tangent? I think I did. Driver's license, birth certificate, social insurance number or card, and health card, right. You probably could. That's true. I think that you probably could because it's government issued photo ID. Yeah. Thanks for asking that. I'm going to check with my funeral director buddy and just these are all the things that they need. And I'll be honest with you, preferably they want them immediately. We have all these steps to do and this is what we need. So my experience was looking all over the house of a friend who had passed away very young, and I couldn't find her purse. And I mean, that's the thing, she wasn't a family member. I didn't know where she kept everything. So the common place for a driver's license and health card is in your wallet. Where are those other 2? It took me days to find them, so.
They could go in the green sleeve.
They could totally go in the green sleeve. Thank you. Hi.
So in your list under documents, the first listing, last will and testament, $100, meaning that you people can draw up a will, one does not have to go to a lawyer?
Exactly. Again, if it's going to be a complex estate, going to a lawyer, I can't say enough about it. But as far as simple estate planning, we can. Like I said, there's other places too, like Willful, which is a website that you can go on to, even if it's just a matter of investigating, the different things. So once you have those decisions in mind, I do them at Making Memories. Included with that, because I'm also a notary and a commissioner, so always attached to your will, what they've started doing is attaching an affidavit of execution. So I worked for lawyers for 100 years. When I moved to Alberta, I was constantly having mail show up because I had witnessed so many wills, and they need that affidavit of execution. So now it's more commonplace to get that done when you make your will. And then along with that, because because I'm a notary, I always make a couple of notarial copies, which are considered originals, so we always keep those in a safe spot too. But these are all of the things that when you lose somebody, it's like, make an appointment, maybe they can get you in a week. In Swift Current, it's not so bad. Bigger cities, a little bit tougher. But yeah, we do them at Making Memories. So that was a very long answer to a short question.
The poster, the information about the presentation today, if I'm not mistaken, the presenter is named as McIntyre, but did you not say your name is McCrie?
McCrie, yeah.
And are you from McIntyre?
No.
Well, maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, that's okay. They're both Scottish. Yeah.
The name, as far as the information about this presentation, is different from your
Okay, well, that's all right. I guess as long as we've started a good conversation, you can call me whatever you want.
Have you ever organized a wake?
No.
They're very moving.
Very moving. I would love to.
Regina Hospital for people that are Aboriginal, Native background, and they're very moving.
I would love to chat with you further about that. I'd love to learn more. And this is the thing.
That is the party.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I need your number. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to me.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Michelle, for sharing with us. That is such good information. Also, thank you to Triffon's Restaurant for the lunch today. And in June, I suppose we'll talk about our next Lunch and Learn. We will have one more Lunch and Learn before we break for summer. And so that will be with Lisa Bird Wilson for a Lunch and Learn to share about family, script, and storytelling, a Métis storytelling journey. And so please take a moment to check out the new temporary exhibit if you don't need to rush out. And it is from the Legacy of Hope Foundation and is just right in the back by our gift shop. And so it is called The Forgotten, the Métis Residential School Experience. So this exhibit sheds light on the history of the legacy of the Métis Residential School Experience. So the exhibit explores Métis identity, Métis experience of residential school, and cultural reclamation and healing. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.